Alright, good morning. Still sort of getting myself set up here, so you've probably seen YouTube and Twitter and stuff flash across the screen as I'm getting things moved around, but let me sort myself out here. Alright, let's get rid of that. Okay, so I think I've updated to 1803, so let's first gonna see if the snooze and dismiss thing is actually working now. It would help if I'm not on that. Well, it looks like it's worked according to that. Nice. So apparently that was just a bug with 1709 where the snooze wasn't working. So this is probably going to be much less structured of a stream than I'd normally like it to be, just because we're sort of playing around with things that probably aren't going to work and experimenting, and yeah, so I'm not sure if we'll actually come out the other end of this with something that's working. So I'm just googling on my right hand screen because I need to remind myself what the event's called. Right, I should probably clean this up at some stage, because every time I open this file, I end up going through and editing a little bit. Regardless. Should do that. Don't need any of that. Which means I don't need actions. So let's have a poke around in here. That's looking interesting. There's arcs. So that's the event I'm looking for, because we basically want to fire off an action when our toast is activated. Or potentially dismissed, I guess. So if I head back to here, no, if I head back to here, I'm wondering if I can add event actions onto this thing. Might have to do it in here. Where do we create our toast? Right there. Just for the sake of this, because I don't want everything saving right away, I'm going to go ahead and turn off autosave. Because I have a feeling a lot of what I'm about to do is going to break some stuff. If I can remember how to do it. That's looking more like it. So basically I'm trying to subscribe to an event on this object. The object being a blah 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 toast notification. And oh look, the snooze worked. And the event that I'm looking for is activated. Or potentially behind the scenes it's on activated or on activation or something. But then the event name, we'll try activated. It should be what I'm looking for. And our action, let's do something that doesn't rely on the console or anything else. What we'll do is in my Git folder, we'll go ahead and just write a text file. If I tell it to put it on the right disk, that'll help. Yeah, we won't put anything in it. So just a sanity check that that actually works. No, it does need a value. Alright. So in that case, let's chuck in the date. Cool. So in theory, when we submit our burnt toast, we should be subscribed to an event on that toast notification or that toast object. And if it works, we should get something written into this file, which I'm going to delete. And before I get too excited about that, I should probably remember to actually update my session. Sorry, update the module that's actually running. And while I'm in here, that one. What's my app ID? I love my material icons, Andrew. Specifically, this one. I need to run that again so I can see things. Assuming I've got it installed. Aha! My app ID. Okay, so that's all good. Just going to simplify this toast a little bit more because I don't need all the stuff that's happening here. Yeah, sure. Don't care, definitely don't care. Alright, that's stripped it right back. So in theory, when we run this, we get a toast. That looks way too boring now. But when I activate it, nope, that looked like big red text down there. And so here's the crux of the issue. Windows PowerShell cannot subscribe to Windows RT events. Now I just had a thought. Windows PowerShell can't subscribe to Windows RT events. I'm going to assume PowerShell Core can't subscribe either, but for the sake of completeness, let's give it a shot. Apparently BurntToast doesn't work in PowerShell Core. Does anyone know offhand where PowerShell Core's module paths are? Because apparently that ain't it. Let's take a stab that it'll be here, PowerShell modules. And just realizing that's probably really small for everyone. Shows how often I use new PowerShell. And normally I wouldn't set this to unrestricted, but alright. So now that we've got all that sorted, let's try running this again. So toasts do work in PowerShell Core, that's good to know. But PowerShell can't subscribe to Windows RT events either. So this is the crux of the issue. So how people have got around this in the past is shipping a exe that sits in the middle and does the thing. Apparently we could also use a DLL. And I think what I'll end up doing is writing my own DLL, basically following Keith's blog, like what's happened here. So to try this out, I'm going to need this DLL, which comes from where? I was really hoping to find a compiled version of it. Alright, let's... So, does anyone happen to have Visual Studio installed, or something that they can compile some C# for me? Because actually, can we do it in Visual Studio Code? And I wager we probably can. I'm thinking we can probably do it in code. So what I'll do is go ahead and where am I looking? Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll clone this repo and open it up in code. That one there. You can go. Actually, I didn't do anything with you, did I? I imagine code's going to prompt me to install the C# extension. Hopefully. And then it's downloading all the packages and stuff. Cool. I really do like how simple it makes this stuff, and I guess we should probably download the .NET tools. My download's going pretty slow this morning. Now hopefully, if I close and reopen code, that should all be good to go now. Reference assembly. Really? I'm going to ignore that for a second and just try and build this thing and see what happens. I'm taking a stab in the dark. Stab in the dark. Okay, fine, I'll go back to Google. If you can't tell, I'm not too fond of doing things like this when I'm not 100% sure. Like getting into C# and building in all sorts isn't my cup of tea. So, well, that's initializing a new project. Yeah, okay, we probably need to do that. Nothing to do. Okay. I wonder. Nope. You see, if I have Visual Studio installed, I just literally press the button. music. Wow. So I think I'm going to figure out building this offline and come back to it later. Let's head back over to BurntToast. And comment out that because it's not going to work. Have I gone dumb? I have gone dumb. Yeah, I'm going to... something like that. I knew I was going to have to be banging my head against the wall. But if I have to bang my head against the wall too much, it's probably something I'd prefer to do off stream. But I definitely need to figure it out. What I'll do is I'm going to have a look at what that DLL is actually doing and see if I can replicate it in PowerShell or with C# code embedded in PowerShell rather than a DLL. But yeah, that's going to take a little bit of time. So instead of that, are there any issues specifically that we can work on? Do you guys have any feature requests for BurntToast or bugs that you've come across that you want to have a look at? And actually, I haven't really looked too much. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually used custom selection box items. That's all sort of tied in with the subscribing to events, Andrew, because we can do input, as in I can potentially present an input box, but then nothing would get done with it because an event fires but nothing subscribed to it. Whereas I don't think you were here for this bit, but snooze and dismiss is working again in 1803. Oh, I don't actually want to dismiss it. See you later. Have a good one. So this sort of stuff here works because it's handled by the system itself and within the toast handler MacGuffins in the background. So like picking from something here and snoozing it for an hour, my script doesn't need to subscribe to any events for that to work. So yeah, taking input in that is definitely one of the main reasons why I want events to work. So, and again, this one here, has had a similar issue. They want to use selection boxes, which effectively look like the snooze and dismiss where you're selecting a time, and then do something with that. But of course the problem is at the moment I can show those choices, but web-based images no. But what I'm thinking, actually, let's work on that. So, I had a thought, and it might be a crazy thought, but we're using PowerShell. What if we detected that the image source was on the internet and we download it locally, and then translate that and use the local path instead of the internet path? Because we definitely showed last time that just chucking in a online URL doesn't work. Which means I'm thoroughly sorry, as an aside, I've got a default image, sure. But then, okay. This is one of those cases where I'm going back and looking at one of my old scripts. That's interesting. Because local files work, but I wonder if... Alright. So I need a picture, and for those that haven't seen it, here's my new blog. Here's a picture. First, let's assume, let's double check. That this doesn't work. No, I'm going to need to go back to yeah. Okay, someone remind me to uninstall PowerShell when I don't need it. Because every time I load anything, this comes up. Every single time. And images go here. Go away. Yeah. So what I still find interesting is that it creates a space for it, so it knows there's meant to be a picture there. What I'm interested in knowing then what I've done, Andrew, is I took a photo of my screen with the yellow text. However, what I could do, here we go. There's a little something like this with a snooze and dismiss. And we'll set that to an hour. So in an hour, I'll get a toast reminding me to turn off PowerShell. It's almost as good as a job. So what I'm wondering is then if I... So what your message there made me think is, can I just add, because local files work, like if I go C // like, you know, it works. I wonder if we can, so we're mixing protocols there, and I imagine the browser's not going to like it, because obviously that doesn't resolve to anything. Yeah. But I go ahead with did it seriously not stay open? So there will be a nicer way of doing this. With regex and all things nice. But what I'm going to do is hack it out. Because at the moment I don't really care like speed, I just want to get this working. Anyone know if... let's try it. I was going to say, does anyone know if single character... oops, my slash is around the right way. Single character wildcards work in a like statement, but we'll very quickly figure that out. And in fact... let's just borrow this as our default sort of test. Yeah, it is. My problem is I'm not very good at writing the regex itself. Oh, and I just realised the cup that I got for my water has a leak. That's what I get for using my kids' plastic cups, I guess. Alright. So, if I go back here, so I'm using an image with a source that has an HTTPS link. In theory, when I run that, I should get a text file in here. In fact, I don't even really need to run the whole toast. So we've got our text file, and it's got the date and time in there. Cool. So that means my single character wildcard worked. Which then means we can download the file somewhere. We can do that with web request, can't we? Shorthand for actually, is there something in here? So, I want a unique name, and I think what I'm going to do is just generate a GUID as a quick way of... I should follow my own practices. And use the quick way to get a GUID. Let's make sure that's giving me what I want. Cool. And I need to know what the extension of that source is. So, I am making a bold assumption here that if I split my source, i.e. that, on periods, and then grabbing the last item from the resulting array, I should end up with the file extension on the end. So I can, and I'm not liking my chances of this actually working as I'm constructing it there, so actually, what does that look like? Yeah. So we use that, we use the GUID, we use the file extension. And I didn't name it that, so that's not going to help. And that's going to drive my OCD nuts. There. So in theory, we can now choose new file path. And if I grab that and just rig this up a little bit to see what it's going to look like. There's our source. So our extension, our GUID, and our file path. Just when I'm doing things like that period there, I'm just never 100% sure if it's going to try going into a property of the object rather than the object itself. So just to rule that out. Okay, so the snooze is working. It's just not honouring the times. Let's try 4 hours. Anyway, so yeah, I'm doing it here more as a just to be 100% sure that what's in that variable ends up being what I want it to be. And there we go. So we'll have a GUID named JPEG file in my temp directory. Because it's going into my temp directory, I'm not going to worry about cleaning it up afterwards. It might have a humorous history after a while and eventually should get cleaned up anyway, so that's fine. Yeah, so in theory, that wouldn't become an issue unless I was doing... So in theory, it would only grab the properties if I had it in a format like this. And I know that, but I want to be extra sure. Right, now we need to actually use this. So, image.source can become that. Otherwise, it can become that. Now, in theory, which is my favorite phrase, this should just work. And just to be sure, I'll restart my session. Now what I expect to see is the toast take a little bit longer to load as it downloads that picture. Haha! That actually worked pretty well. Now the only thing is, and it would be a lot to build it, but every time I run this now it's going to be creating a new file in the... Actually... So of course now all I want to do is optimize that to make it better, and what I'm thinking is... Well, no, I'm not worried about cleaning out the temp file. What I want to do is reuse the file. And I think that's going to involve... Rather than using a GUID, I could just base it on the file name. And if the file name already exists in the temp... So, the problem I'm trying to avoid is if I look in my... if I look in my temp directory, I'm likely going to have... So every time I run this now, it's going to download the same thing again. What I'd prefer to do is if I run this again with the same picture, that it just uses the one that's already here instead of downloading it again. So of course that's not going to work at the moment when I'm generating a new random GUID every time. What I could do is instead of splitting on the period, I can split on the... Yeah, see, and I think that's because MS Teams is web-based. And how it's expecting to see things is from the other side, whereas my one's all local-based, and it's, yeah. So, my thinking is if I split this on the backslash, sure, whatever, on the slash, I should end up with the entire name of that file. So we'll call this something more descriptive like remote file name, and that ends up giving us the extension as well. So then we don't need a GUID. And we don't need an extension. now we can do testing to see if that path already exists or not. If it does, we go in here and we use new file path. If it doesn't, we download it. Oh, actually, you don't need that. That's inefficient. Which then means this probably needs to be like that. I never remember that syntax, so I'll do it my way. There. So, basically, we figure out the file path if it exists. Well, sorry, if it doesn't exist, we go ahead and download it, and then we'll go ahead and use it. So, save that. Update the module again. Restart that just to make sure everything's loaded. And then the first time I run this, I expect to see one that show up. Did I actually? No, I didn't actually save it. That's awesome. Actually, you raise a good point, but I prefer, because of my first learning to use C#, to use that, which should in theory do the same thing. We'll see how it goes. So, that file that was downloaded hasn't been downloaded yet because it wasn't running the right thing. Okay, no. I'll remember to get rid of it. So, we go over here. So there's the file as it's named on the far end. So we go back here. That's the file name as it sits on my blog. And that's the file as it sits there. So now if we run this again, notice it's a lot faster to show up. And it hasn't added another file. So that means we can keep reusing the same remote file without having to download it every single time. Sorry, I'm being distracted by TechSnips notifications because the editors are going nuts on my videos. So, I am really happy with how that's turned out. So the thing about new BT image is it handles app logo overrides, it handles hero images, which in theory means that that one change has meant we can now support remote like online pictures regardless of what type of picture you use. To prove that, let's go and grab this. Blah 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 blah. let's use this picture as an example. This picture. And that's going to be our hero image. Not that one, this one. Okay, so we run this. Oh, I forgot I did that. I'm sorry to anyone that ran this example code, but that's not the point. The point is, let's set that to something a little nicer. The point is, that's loading our hero image, which still I'm very happy with that picture that we used for that. And if I look in the temp folder that I've closed already, what's the path to that? I keep forgetting. And so we've had our image downloaded once, we've run that multiple times, and it's only downloaded it once, which I am very happy with that. So much so that it's going in the change notes. Did I have an open issue about this? There's secret stuff on my GitHub page that I probably shouldn't show. BurntToast. Images. Let's see. Is it possible to use images from the web? At the time, back in 2017, all the documentation said it should be. But I guess at least now it is. All good. Thanks for tuning in. So that issue was number 18. Ah. So, images from the internet will now be downloaded locally. Hero images, and what's the other one? App logo. Right, so that's in there. I also want it in the thing that is closed. In the README. Have I not? Oh, there it is. Cool. This font is my favorite font for coding. It is called Hack. And it's available at here. The only thing about it for Windows is when you go to download it, it downloads as an exe. So it handles installing it and all of that for you. Just means that you're not copying the font files in there, and you can uninstall it via the control panel. But yeah, I use it for everything. I find it really easy to read, especially with the zeros versus O's. Right, so the question is, I don't want to do that one. What have I actually changed? Yep, that looks good. Eh? I don't know why that's coming up red, but okay. I don't want to submit that. Why with the random formatting changes? Sure, whatever. And actually, yep, cool. All of that's in there. I have a feeling that Visual Studio Code is changing my formatting on a button. Yeah, it is. Stay. Oh, losing battle. Fine. So, the multi-cursor thing is in code, press Control Shift and Alt, and then you can go up or down. Yeah, and edit multiple lines at once. I think so. That's Control Shift and Alt. In Notepad, you can do Notepad++, you can do the same thing, but it's Shift and Alt. And my issue is I'd learnt that, and then I try to do the same thing in code, but Shift and Alt replicates a line, which is thoroughly annoying. And I think the ISE, sure, let's open up a TechSnips one. If we go in here, the ISE does Shift and Alt as well, which is really cool. But it's just a matter of remembering in these apps, it's Shift Alt. In code, it's you got to hold Control as well. So I've got to remember to reply to that person. So we'll work on-click action. I think if we get that working, that'll be the point where I push out a new version of this. Because I do feel kind of bad about not doing that recently, because we're over 10,000 downloads now and almost half of them came from this version. Which means it's probably long overdue for an update. So we've sorted that one. Progress bars, what was this one? Alright, this is me needing to update the documentation. Ah, that is a good point. At the moment, if I can remember where this sits, it's probably under here. Surprisingly, well, I guess not surprisingly, you really only ever hear from people when they have issues. So, like, there's those 10,000 downloads, I don't know what half of those people are doing with it. So I'm assuming for most people it's working fine. And of course I work for a city council with a reasonably large population. And if you took the Facebook feedback from our residents as anything, everyone hates us. Because of course you only hear from the vocal minority. And that's true for open source projects as well. Yeah. Although to be fair, I'm surprised there aren't more issues given the number of downloads, so you can take some solace in that, I guess. But what I came in here to look for, and I'm not sure if it is in here that I need to worry about this. There's the sequence number. So what I'm looking for is there's two ways of showing a new ways of dealing with replacing a toast notification, so for updating one with new information. I'm using the method called replace, which basically, if I send a toast with an unique identifier, and then I send another one with a unique identifier, it's going to rip out that previous one and display a whole new toast. It's meant to be possible to use, rather than replace, use update, which instead just seamlessly behind the scenes replaces the content of the toast rather than outright replacing it, which means potentially it doesn't need to actually re-toast. If it's sitting in the action center, it can just quietly update the data. What I don't know, because that's the unique identifier, what I'm trying to figure out is where that method's actually set, and it might be under this this data here. Because the other thing is, when you're doing that and you're doing it rapidly, there's a toast sequence thing here. So just in case the system gets things in the wrong order, say for example you're firing a toast every second, you'd want to increment the sequence number so that if the system gets toast 11 or toast 9 after it's already processed toast 10, it's just going to ignore toast 9 and not go backwards in time. I don't ever really see that being an issue, but the functionality's there if it's needed. Sorry, I just did a quick Google to find out where this was. I find this, so that's pretty cool. Alright, that's not what I was looking for though, but it's still pretty cool to see stuff like that out there. Actually, I know where I can say look for this. Is over here. And of course the name's changing from UWP Community Toolkit to Windows Toolkit. That's not what I want. No. quickly scanning down this list to see if it jumps out at me, but I don't. No. Well, that's a bugger. In that case, let's get rid of you, come over here and get to this point. Come on. Alright, put that back before I forget. Cool. So let's have a look at the contents of this. We've got this data group. Priority, suppress pop-up, tag. We've got group and tag, no, cool. So what's in data? Nothing, because I haven't added it yet. Huh, that doesn't really help me. What am I looking in again? Toast notification data. Did I not just search for that? Oh, right there. Jeez. Well, that doesn't help, does it? So there was a blog called Tiles and Toasts, which unfortunately the content, well, I mean not unfortunately, it's a good website, but it's all been moved to docs. But I've never been able to actually find the like for like like often when I click here, that one worked, alright, fine. But often when I try that, unless they've gone back and fixed it, I'd never find what I was actually looking for. Oh, that's what it was. Right. That was a major brainwave. So the difference between replace and show, what I was referring to as replace and update is this method here. So I'm using show, but there is, which is this one here. Update, on the other hand, takes notification data and a string. So that takes notification. This takes notification data and string. Which then means we need to use what am I saying? The tag. But then I'm confused about the unique identifier. Where's the sequence? Let's just give this a shot. Not in there. What I'm going to do is copy this. Make it replace BT notification. And I wonder if I can just change that method. I'm not hopeful. Huh. Oh, there will be a bit of a delay. So there's a delay in OBS picking up the chat comments. As in, yeah, the chat comments. And then there's a delay for the broadcast to go through the YouTube system and end up displayed at the other end. So, I have a feeling this is another one that I'm going to need to bang my head against a bit for a while. But let's go ahead. Give this a unique identifier of stream, sure. So this is a test. Didn't think so. And that makes sense because, you know, I didn't actually give it what it was asking for. See, what I'm confused by is that notification data there is basically this, where we're giving it a sequence number. The strings are meant to be the tag and the group, which are these. But then I'm not sure then how you actually provide the content. And I'm wondering if I'm meant to chuck it in the toast toast data somehow, but I'm not, like, under toast data. You can add random values and properties, but I don't understand how that ties back to stuff. What I'm starting to wonder is if I'm going to need to capture this as an object and then run update on that object rather than on the toast notifier. I think I'm going to have to be reading through some documentation. Ugh. See you, Andrew. Have a good one. So I think I'm going to call the stream there. Let me just double check I don't have anything open that needs to be saved. I'm going to get rid of that, because that doesn't mean anything. I don't want to save that. Right, so did I have anything updated? In here? No, click the right thing, man. That change there. Gonna take that out because nothing really happened there. Alright, so no changes. Cool. So yeah, that, well, this stream didn't quite go to plan there. I really was hoping to get notifications working by the end of that, but oh well. I'm glad we managed to get the images thing working. And I think we can do something about the events, which should, if I can get if I can get the events going, that's going to be massive. So I guess before I sign off, I'll do the whole pluggy thing. No, that's alright, you basically saved the stream. Yeah, gave me something to focus on for a bit there. So I'll do the pluggy thing now. I've been working on tech snips to the point where if I scroll across and find one of mine, I've been going a little bit nuts recording videos. And during the stream I've been getting notifications about the editors working on more. But this site is officially launching on June the 5th. It's free until that point if you want to go and check it out. After that point, so after June the 5th, it will be a paid website. So if you're curious about it at all, go and have a look now while it's free and see what's available. If you want to do recordings on there as well, you can sign up. If there's any content you want to see on there, you can request it. Yeah, and I think on that request form, I've started tallying votes for the various categories so that we know what people want to see. And if there's any scenarios and think like how to do this or that or whatever, chuck them in there. Basically anything that comes through this form we give high priority to, and we'll record as soon as we're able. But yeah, it's been fun doing that, and it's taken up a lot of time, but it's fun. Other than that, catch me on Twitter, subscribe to this channel. Hopefully I'll be doing more streams coming up, and hopefully they'll be a little bit more structured than this one. But yeah, it's been fun, and I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.